Hello everyone, before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's get into today's story. Let's see what happens next. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. The next morning, Emma woke up with a deep sense of unease. The events of the previous night replayed in her mind like an embarrassing movie she couldn't stop watching. She had sat at the wrong table, mistaken a stranger for someone she was supposed to meet, and bolted out of the restaurant in a panic. Her face still burned with the memory. "You idiot," she muttered to herself as she stretched and sat up in her small, cluttered apartment. The sound of the busy city street outside felt like an echo of her anxiety, but she couldn't help but wonder if she'd ever see Liam again. After all, what were the chances? He probably didn't even remember her name. But as she got ready for her shift at the cafe, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted inside her. She had been so sure that meeting someone like him was out of her reach. The man she'd mistaken for Kevin, who had seemed so reserved, so polite, had a quiet intensity to him. He'd listened to her ramble on about her struggles with rent and her dream of an art studio, without any judgment or disinterest. It had been such a long time since anyone had really listened to her, and that, more than anything, had made her feel something she wasn't sure she wanted to name. Later that afternoon, as Emma wiped down the counter at the cafe, she noticed her phone buzzing on the countertop. Her stomach tightened when she saw an unfamiliar number flashing on the screen. "It's him," she thought, her heart suddenly racing. For a moment, she hesitated, but then she took a deep breath and answered. "Hello? Hi, Emma. It's Liam. From last night. I know it was a little strange, but I wanted to reach out. I'm sorry about what happened. I was hoping we could meet up for coffee sometime. If you're free?" Emma's heart skipped a beat. He was actually calling her, even after the mix-up. Coffee, she thought, trying to steady her breath. She was caught off guard, unsure how to respond. She had been so embarrassed about the whole thing, but the idea of seeing him again, of having the chance to talk to him without the pressure of the blind date, intrigued her. "Sure," she replied, forcing herself to sound calm. "Coffee sounds good." The conversation was brief, but it left Emma with more questions than answers. What was this all about? Why did he want to meet her again? She couldn't deny that a part of her was curious, and the other part was already imagining how awkward it would be. But in the back of her mind, she couldn't help but remember the look in his eyes, the way he'd smiled faintly, as if he understood her in a way she couldn't explain. They agreed to meet at a small, quiet cafe a few blocks from her apartment, a place Emma liked because it wasn't crowded and felt like a little escape from the busy world. When she arrived, she spotted Liam almost immediately. He was sitting at a corner table, looking more relaxed than the previous night. He wasn't wearing his suit, but a simple gray sweater and jeans, looking like he belonged there. There was something calming about the way he sat, almost as if he was waiting for her without any rush or expectation. "Hey," Emma said, walking over to the table and sliding into the chair across from him. "I didn't expect you to actually call." She smiled, trying to keep things light, though her mind was racing. Liam looked up and smiled back, his gaze softening. "I figured you might think I wouldn't, but I really wanted to see you again. I had a good time talking to you, even if it was under strange circumstances." He paused, glancing down at his coffee before looking back at her. "I'm sorry for not telling you the truth last night. I just didn't know how to say it. But I think you should know who I really am." Emma raised an eyebrow, wondering where this was going. "Who you really are." Liam took a deep breath, as if preparing for something heavy. "I'm not just some guy in tech. I own the company that develops a lot of the tech people use every day. I didn't want you to see me as a CEO or a millionaire. I wanted you to see me as just a guy, for once. The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment Emma couldn't respond. She blinked, trying to process what he had just said. A CEO? A millionaire? That was not at all what she expected. It made her feel something she hadn't felt in a long time: confusion and a little bit of disbelief. But she quickly masked it with a laugh, trying to regain her composure. Well, that's unexpected, Emma said, trying to keep things casual, though her mind was spinning. So, you're like, really rich? She asked, half joking but half serious. Liam chuckled softly. Yes, I am. But I promise you, I'm not here to impress you with that. I just wanted to be honest with you, because I didn't want to keep hiding behind some fake identity. He leaned forward slightly, his voice softening. You've been real with me, Emma. I appreciate that more than you know. The weight of his words hit her then. He was looking at her with such sincerity, and for the first time, she wasn't sure what to say. This wasn't the person she thought he was, but somehow, he was still the same man who had listened to her talk about her dreams, and that meant something to her. I don't know what to say, she admitted, her voice quieter now. I mean, I thought you were. I don't know, just another guy. But this is a lot to take in. Liam nodded, understanding her hesitation. I get it. I'm not asking you to jump into anything. I just wanted to be upfront with you, because I can't shake the feeling that there's something real here, between us. Emma sat back in her chair, still processing the surprise of it all. She wasn't sure where things would go from here, but something in her told her that this wasn't just another awkward encounter. It felt like the beginning of something new, something that might just change everything. Let's see where it goes next. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. The days following their meeting were a blur for Emma. Liam's confession weighed heavily on her mind. He was a CEO. A millionaire. The kind of man she had never thought she would even meet, let alone sit down for coffee with. But despite his wealth, something about him felt different. He wasn't flaunting it, wasn't trying to impress her with his status. In fact, the more she thought about it, the more it seemed like he had been hiding his identity on purpose. Why? That was the question that kept her up at night. Emma found herself reflecting on their conversation constantly. Liam was kind, genuine, and seemed to really care about what she had to say. It wasn't just about her being a waitress, struggling to make ends meet. It was about her dreams, her passions, her art. No one had ever really taken the time to listen to her like that. And it made her wonder, could he really be different from all the other men in her life? Could he be someone who wanted more than just a superficial connection? The next time they met, it wasn't for coffee. This time, Liam invited her to a charity gala, something his company was sponsoring. He assured her it would be casual, nothing too fancy, but she still felt out of place as she slipped into the dress he had arranged for her. It was more than she ever imagined, wearing simple, elegant, but beautiful enough to make her feel like she belonged. Liam was already there when she arrived, dressed in a sharp black suit, his usual understated style now making him look every bit the CEO he had revealed himself to be. But there was no arrogance in the way he carried himself. He looked comfortable, at ease in a way that made her relax too. When Liam saw her, his expression softened, and he walked toward her with a smile that made her heart race. You look amazing, he said, his voice slow but sincere. I'm glad you came. Emma blushed, unsure of what to say. The gala was full of people, a mix of the city's elite, and she felt her nerves kick in again. How could she fit in with people like this? She barely even knew how to hold herself at events like these. But Liam took her hand and led her through the crowd, introducing her to everyone as if she belonged there just as much as he did. As they moved from one conversation to the next, Emma started to feel less like an outsider. Liam kept her close, making sure she was comfortable, and she began to see how the people around her interacted with him. He wasn't just respected, he was genuinely liked. And somehow, she had become part of that world, at least for the night. She found herself laughing with a few of his colleagues, asking questions about his business, and even joining in on some light-hearted conversation. It was nothing like she expected. She wasn't trying to fit in, but somehow, she felt like she was being welcomed into a world she'd always thought was out of her reach. But despite the warmth of the evening, there was still that nagging question in the back of her mind: why had Liam brought her here? What was the real reason behind his invitation? As the evening went on, her doubts began to resurface. Was this all just part of a test? Was he trying to see if she could navigate this world? Or was there something more? Eventually, they found a quiet corner of the ballroom, away from the noise and the crowd. Liam turned to her, his expression serious now. "Emma, I've been thinking a lot about what I said the other day," he began. "About how I've been hiding my life from you. And I want to be completely honest with you. I don't just want to be some man in the background of your life. I want to be someone you can rely on. Someone you can trust." Emma's heart skipped a beat. This wasn't just about the charity event. This wasn't just about the $1 million company or the designer dress she was wearing. This was about him, about the man. What could happen next? "I know this is a lot," Liam continued, "and I don't expect you to have all the answers right now. But I want you to know that what we have here, this connection, is real. And I want to see where it goes. With you." For a moment, Emma couldn't find the words. She had never felt so seen, so understood. But at the same time, everything about this felt like a leap of faith. Could she really trust him? Could she really open herself up to someone with so much power and influence? Was she ready for this kind of life? "I don't know what to say," she finally admitted, her voice soft. "This is all so new to me. But I want to try. I really do." The smile that spread across Liam's face was warm, full of relief and something more. "That's all I'm asking for," he said. And just like that, Emma knew something inside her had shifted. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she was standing on the edge of something real. Something worth fighting for. As the evening wound down, Liam walked her to the door, and they stood for a moment outside the grand building, the cool night air brushing against their skin. Emma looked up at him, her heart pounding in her chest. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for making me feel like I belong." Liam's eyes softened as he nodded. "You do belong, Emma. Right here, with me." And with that, Emma couldn't help but smile. She didn't know where this journey was going to take her, but for the first time, she was excited to find out. Stay tuned for what happens next. The days that followed their first real conversation were filled with an unexpected sense of calm. Emma couldn't remember the last time she had felt this comfortable, this seen, by someone. Liam continued to reach out, not just as a CEO but as someone who genuinely wanted to spend time with her, understand her world, and share his own. Every moment with him felt like stepping into a new reality, one she wasn't sure she was ready for, but couldn't help but be drawn to. One afternoon, after another long shift at the cafe, Emma sat on the bus ride home, staring out the window at the city lights as they flickered past. Her phone buzzed in her bag, and she instinctively grabbed it, expecting it to be a text from Jenny. But it wasn't. It was a message from Liam: "How about dinner tonight? I know you've been working hard. I want to take you somewhere nice." Emma's heart skipped a beat. Dinner with Liam. Somewhere nice. It was a simple invitation, but it felt like so much more. Was this just another casual hangout? Or was it something else? She knew she couldn't go on ignoring her growing feelings for him. Something inside her had already started to shift. He had been nothing but kind and patient, never rushing her, never pushing her to move faster than she was ready. But it was hard not to think about the differences between them. The world she lived in, with its struggles and constant hustle, felt so far removed from his. The more time she spent with him, the more she started to question her place in his life. Was she just a curiosity to him, or was there something more? Still, she couldn't deny the pull she felt every time they were together. The way he listened, how he made her laugh, how he supported her dreams without judgment, it was all so genuine. When he had taken her to the gala, he had treated her as if she belonged there, as if she mattered. And that was something she had never experienced before. That night, Emma stood in front of her closet, staring at the few clothes she owned. She felt a pang of anxiety in her chest. What should she wear? What would make her feel confident enough to walk into the kind of restaurant Liam had in mind? She could already imagine herself feeling out of place, surrounded by the elegant, polished people that filled these kinds of places. She didn't want to embarrass herself. She didn't want to ruin this. But before she could get too lost in her thoughts, her phone buzzed again. "I'll pick you up at 7, Liam's message read, followed by a small smiley face. Emma stared at the screen, biting her lip. Her nerves were getting the best of her. What was she doing? She was just a waitress. He was a millionaire. It wasn't supposed to be like this. She was supposed to feel out of place, but the more she thought about Liam, the more she realized that what they had wasn't about money or status. It was about something deeper. Something real. At 7 p.m., as promised, Liam's black car pulled up outside her building. She stood by her door for a moment, taking a deep breath, trying to calm her racing heart. She had never been to a restaurant this fancy, not even close. But she had a feeling that Liam didn't care about the dress or the food or the setting. He cared about her. And somehow, that made everything feel easier. When she opened the door and stepped out, Liam was already waiting for her, his smile warm as always. He was dressed casually again, his suit jacket replaced with a simple button-down shirt. But even in something more relaxed, he still looked every bit the polished, confident man she had come to know. He greeted her with a soft kiss on the cheek, and for the first time in a while, Emma felt her nerves settle. It wasn't about the fancy restaurant, it wasn't about the million-dollar lifestyle. It was about the two of them, sharing a moment. As they drove through the city, the lights sparkling in the background, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of peace settle over her. She wasn't sure where this would go, but she knew one thing for sure: being with Liam didn't feel like an obligation or a test. It felt like a chance to finally be seen for who she was, not just who people thought she should be. They arrived at a sleek, modern restaurant tucked away in the heart of the city. The atmosphere was quiet, elegant, and intimate. Liam held the door open for her as they walked inside, and Emma couldn't help but feel a little out of place. The hostess led them to a table by the window, and Liam pulled out her chair before sitting down across from her. "You look stunning," Liam said, his voice soft but sincere. Emma smiled, still unsure of how to navigate this world, but she knew one thing: being with him, here, in this moment, felt right. They spoke about everything and nothing, about life, about their dreams, and the connections they had with people. But as the evening went on, Emma realized that there was something else beneath it all. Liam wasn't just listening to her words. He was listening to her heart. As the night wound down and the dessert was served, Liam reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "I want you to know," he said, his voice quieter now, "that this is real. What I'm offering you, what we're building here, is real. I know it might be hard to believe, but I'm not just looking for a date or a fling. I'm looking for something that lasts." For the first time, Emma felt herself fully open up to him. She had spent so much time holding back, unsure of where this would lead, but here, in this moment, she felt something shift inside her. Maybe it was time to stop questioning everything and start trusting what was right in front of her. She squeezed his hand, smiling softly. "I think I'm ready for that," she said, her voice filled with sincerity. "To see where this goes." The night ended with a kiss at the door of her building, and Emma walked inside, her heart full. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time, she felt like she had taken a step towards something that could change everything. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. The following week, things began to feel different for Emma. She had grown accustomed to Liam's calls, his texts, and their time spent together. What once felt like a whirlwind of uncertainty now felt like something more grounded, something real. She found herself waking up with a sense of excitement, looking forward to their next meeting, even if it was just for a simple coffee or a quiet walk through the park. He had a way of making everything feel easy, even though their worlds were so different. But despite the growing connection between them, Emma couldn't help but wrestle with a nagging thought. What if this was all just part of a game for Liam? He was rich, successful, and used to getting what he wanted. She had seen it in the way he moved through the world, confident, composed, always in control. She, on the other hand, was a waitress with a dream that felt out of reach, and she wasn't sure she fit into his life the way she wanted to. Maybe, just maybe, he was still testing her, seeing if she was genuine enough to be part of his world. Was she just another woman he was intrigued by, or was this something deeper? One evening, as they sat together at a small, cozy cafe in the city, Emma couldn't hold back any longer. The question had been swirling in her mind for days, and she needed to know the truth. "Liam," she began, her voice soft but steady, "I need to ask you something. I've been thinking a lot about us." Liam looked up from his cup of coffee, his eyes focused on her, his expression calm but open. "Go ahead," he said, his tone encouraging. He had always made her feel like her thoughts mattered, like he was truly interested in what she had to say. It was one of the things she liked most about him, but it also made her feel vulnerable. "I guess I'm just wondering, why me?" she asked, her fingers nervously tracing the rim of her coffee cup. "I mean, you're this successful, powerful man, and I'm just me. I'm not from your world, I don't have all the fancy things, and sometimes I wonder why you'd want someone like me. Is this just some kind of experiment? Or are you just trying to see if someone like me can fit into your life?" Emma felt her heart race as she finished speaking. The words hung in the air between them, and for a moment, Liam was silent. He stared at her, his eyes searching hers, as if weighing her question. Emma held her breath, unsure of what he would say. Would he tell her that this was all just a passing fancy, that he was testing her, or would he give her the honesty she was looking for? Finally, Liam spoke, his voice gentle but firm. "Emma, I get it. I understand why you're asking. I know this must feel like a big leap for you, and I know you're probably wondering what I want out of this. The truth is, I don't have an agenda. I'm not looking for someone to fit into my world. I'm looking for someone who fits into my life, who understands what it means to just be with me, without all the fancy stuff. I'm not trying to impress you. I'm just trying to be real. With you." His words hit her like a wave, and Emma felt the weight of them sink deep into her chest. He wasn't trying to prove anything. He wasn't looking for someone who could handle his success or his wealth. He just wanted someone who could be there with him, without all the pretenses. For the first time, she realized that he had never once tried to make her feel small or unimportant. In fact, he had always made her feel like she was enough, just as she was. "I know it's a lot to take in," Liam continued, his voice softening, "but I want you to know, Emma, that what we're building matters to me. I'm not testing you. I'm not trying to change who you are. I just want to share my life with you, in the simplest way possible." Emma felt a surge of emotion well up inside her. It was as if a heavy weight had been lifted from her shoulders. She had been carrying this fear for so long, afraid that she would never be enough for someone like Liam. But now, listening to him, it all started to make sense. He wasn't looking for perfection. He was looking for someone who could be real with him, just as he had been with her. She took a deep breath, feeling a new sense of clarity. "I'm scared, Liam," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm scared that I don't belong in your world, that I'll mess this up somehow. But I don't want to keep hiding from what we have." He reached across the table, taking her hand in his touch warm and reassuring. "You don't have to be scared," he said softly. "We're in this together. I'm not going anywhere. Just take it one step at a time." In that moment, Emma knew that whatever happened, she was ready to face it. She wasn't sure what the future held, but she felt something powerful stirring inside her, something she hadn't felt in a long time: hope. And with that hope, she realized that she didn't need to have everything figured out to take the next step. As they left the cafe that evening, Emma couldn't help but feel a sense of peace. She wasn't sure where this journey would take her, but for the first time, she didn't feel like she had to walk it alone. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. As the days passed, Emma felt a growing sense of change in her life. Her time with Liam had shifted something inside her. She was beginning to feel more confident in herself, in her choices, and in the connection they shared. Despite her earlier doubts and fears, she realized that what she and Liam were building together was more than just a fleeting romance. It was something real, something deep. Still, she couldn't completely shake the nagging worry in the back of her mind. She had never been a part of this world, the world of luxury, of high society events and business deals. What if she wasn't enough? What if the differences between them became too much to overcome? But every time she saw Liam, he reassured her with his presence, with his words. And that made it easier to push aside those doubts, just for a moment. One afternoon, Liam called her. His voice was calm and steady, but there was a certain intensity in it that caught her attention. "Emma, I've been thinking," he said. "I'd like for you to meet someone important to me." Emma raised an eyebrow. "Who?" "My family," Liam replied. "My sister, actually. She's been asking about you, and I think it's time we all meet. I want you to be a part of my life, and that means including the people who matter most to me." The words hit Emma like a wave. She had been expecting their relationship to stay just between the two of them for a little while longer, but now he wanted her to meet his family. His sister. She suddenly felt a rush of nerves. What would they think of her? She wasn't from their world. She was just a waitress with a dream that felt too big to hold on to. But before she could let her thoughts spiral, Liam's voice came through the phone again, calm and reassuring. "I know this might seem fast," Liam said, sensing her hesitation, "but I wouldn't ask you if I didn't think you were ready. You've been with me through everything, and now I want to share this part of my life with you." Emma took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "Okay," she finally said, her voice soft but firm. "I'll do it. I'll meet your sister." The day of the meeting, Emma found herself standing in front of Liam's penthouse apartment, adjusting her dress for what felt like the 100th time. She had never been to a place like this before, and the thought of meeting someone so important to Liam made her stomach flip. She wasn't sure how she would fit in, how she would even belong in a world like this. But as Liam opened the door and greeted her with that warm, reassuring smile, all of her nerves seemed to fade away. For a moment, it was just the two of them again, standing together in a space that felt like their own. "You look beautiful," Liam said softly, his eyes glowing with admiration. "I'm glad you're here." Emma smiled, feeling her confidence grow just a little bit more. "Thanks. I'm just nervous." "I understand," Liam said, taking her hand and squeezing it gently. "But trust me, everything will be fine. Just be yourself." They made their way to the living room, where Liam's sister, Sarah, was waiting. Sarah was sitting on the couch, a warm smile on her face as she stood up to greet them. She was in her early 30s, with dark hair pulled into a neat bun, and a confident air about her that immediately made Emma feel a little less at ease. "You must be Emma," Sarah said, her voice warm but with a hint of curiosity. "It's so nice to finally meet you. Liam talks about you all the time." Emma felt a wave of relief wash over her at the mention of Liam. "It's nice to meet you too," she said, smiling shyly. "I've heard so much about you." Sarah smiled, and for a moment, Emma felt like maybe this wouldn't be so difficult after all. They talked about work, about life, and even about the art Emma had always dreamed of pursuing. As the evening went on, Emma found herself feeling more comfortable, laughing at Sarah's jokes and even sharing a little about her own struggles. Liam watched the two women interact, his heart swelling with pride. He had always wanted to bring them together, to see how his two worlds could coexist, and watching Emma open up to Sarah made him feel more at ease than he had in a long time. By the end of the evening, when they were saying their goodbyes, Sarah pulled Emma into a hug. "You're amazing, Emma," she said. "I'm really happy for Liam. He deserves someone who brings out the best in him. I can see that in you." Emma smiled, feeling an unexpected warmth spread through her. It was more than she had hoped for. For the first time in a long while, she didn't feel like she was an outsider. She felt like she belonged. As they left the apartment and walked back to Liam's car, he turned to Emma with a smile that made her heart skip a beat. "I'm proud of you," he said softly. "You did great." Emma looked at him, her heart full. "I think I'm starting to feel like I belong." And as they drove through the city streets, Emma realized that she wasn't just fitting into Liam's world. She was building her own place in it, one step at a time. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. Over the next few weeks, Emma's life seemed to settle into a rhythm she had never imagined. She spent her days working at the cafe, but now there was a spark in her step, a quiet excitement about her life with Liam. They spent their evenings together, whether it was at one of his favorite restaurants or just walking around the city, enjoying the quiet moments that came with simply being in each other's company. For the first time in a long while, Emma felt like she wasn't just surviving, she was actually living, truly living. But despite the warmth and comfort that Liam brought into her life, there was still something she couldn't shake. Every time she looked at him, she saw the man who had everything: wealth, power, success. And then there was her, just a waitress with dreams too big for her small apartment. She loved him, there was no doubt about that. But she was still afraid. Afraid that one day, her own insecurities would push him away. Afraid that he would see her as someone who didn't belong in his world. One evening, as they sat together at a quiet cafe, Emma could feel the weight of the thoughts she had been carrying for days. She couldn't keep pretending that everything was perfect. She had to talk to him about it. "Liam, can we talk?" she asked, her voice soft but steady. She wasn't sure what she was afraid of more, his response or the silence that followed. He looked at her, his expression soft and encouraging. "Of course. What's on your mind?" he replied, his eyes never leaving hers. He always made her feel like she was the only person in the room, and for that moment, she felt like she could say anything. "I don't know how to say this," she began, taking a deep breath. I feel like I'm living in a world I don't belong in. With you, I mean. You have everything. The life you've built, the people you know, it's all so far from my reality. And I'm afraid. I'm afraid that one day, you'll look at me and realize that I'm not enough." The words hung between them like a heavy curtain, and for a moment, Emma wasn't sure if she had said too much. But Liam didn't look angry or frustrated. Instead, he reached across the table, taking her hand in his. "Emma, you have to know something," he said softly, his voice full of sincerity. "I've never looked at you and thought you weren't enough. You're everything I've ever wanted, and I'm not interested in the money, the success, or the status. I'm interested in you. In who you are, in your heart, in the way you make me feel. I never want you to think that you have to change for me, or for anyone." Emma felt the weight of his words settle into her chest, and for the first time, she felt a sense of relief. She had spent so long feeling like she didn't belong, like she wasn't enough for someone like Liam. But hearing him speak like this, hearing him say that it was her that mattered, it felt like everything she had been afraid of had been wiped away. She squeezed his hand, a soft smile tugging at her lips. "I'm sorry for being so insecure. I just didn't want to get in the way of your life. You deserve someone who fits into your world." "I already have someone," Liam said, his voice slow and gentle. "Someone who fits into my world perfectly. You've always belonged in my life, Emma. I just had to figure it out." Emma's heart fluttered in her chest as she looked at him, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid anymore. She didn't need to be perfect. She didn't need to fit into his world. All she needed was to be herself. "I think I'm starting to believe that," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Good," Liam replied, his smile widening. "Because you are exactly where you're supposed to be." The rest of the evening was spent in a comfortable silence, the kind that only comes when two people truly understand each other. For Emma, it felt like a turning point. A moment when everything clicked into place. She wasn't afraid anymore. With Liam by her side, she felt like she could face anything that came their way. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. As the weeks went by, Emma felt herself settling into a life she had never imagined. Things with Liam were different now. No longer was she simply the woman who worked at a cafe, unsure of her place in his world. She was his woman, and in a way, that felt both terrifying and amazing. She had started to believe in the idea that their love was real, no longer a temporary connection, but something that could stand the test of time. But even as her heart began to open to him fully, there was still a part of Emma that couldn't shake her fear. What would happen if the life she had with Liam was too much of a contrast to her own? What if the pressure of it all, his wealth, his status, his family, became too overwhelming? She wasn't sure if she could ever be completely comfortable in a world so different from the one she had known. One evening, as they sat together at Liam's apartment, the sound of rain tapping softly on the windows, Emma felt an overwhelming urge to share her fears. She couldn't keep them bottled up any longer. "Liam," she began, her voice steady but laced with uncertainty, "I've been thinking a lot lately." Liam turned to her, his face soft with concern. "What's on your mind?" She hesitated, feeling her heart race. "I know we've been good, but sometimes I still feel like I don't belong in your world. You have everything: money, power, influence. And I have my dreams. But I'm just me. A waitress who's barely holding it together most days. What if that's not enough? What if one day you realize I'm not the kind of woman who belongs in your world?" For a moment, Liam didn't speak. He just looked at her, and Emma could see the deep thought in his eyes. His silence made her anxiety spike, and she quickly added, "I don't want you to feel like you're stuck with me because I'm just here. I want you to be with me because you want to be with me, not because of some guilt or obligation." Liam took a deep breath and reached across the table to take her hand. "Emma, I understand why you're feeling this way, and I'm sorry if I've ever made you feel like you're not enough. But I need you to know something: I don't care about money or status when it comes to you. I don't care about all the things you think make us different. What I care about is us. What I care about is you, the way you laugh, the way you see the world, the way you make me feel alive. That's the woman I want by my side." Emma blinked, her heart swelling with his words. She had been so focused on her own insecurities, her own doubts, that she hadn't seen the bigger picture. She hadn't realized that Liam didn't care about any of those things, that he wasn't interested in impressing anyone. He just wanted to be with her. And that, in itself, was enough. "I'm not going anywhere," Liam continued, his voice calm but unwavering. "I want you here, with me, and I'm not going to let anything come between us. Not money, not status, not your fears. I want you to be you, Emma. And that's more than enough for me." Emma's heart raced, and for the first time in a long time, she felt a deep sense of relief. She had always thought that love had to come with some kind of price. She thought that if she wasn't good enough in his world, she would be cast aside. But Liam had just told her the truth, their truth. The only thing that mattered was how they felt about each other, and nothing else could change that. She smiled, a soft, genuine smile that reached her eyes. "I don't know what the future holds, Liam. But for the first time, I'm not afraid of it." Liam squeezed her hand, his face full of affection. "Good. Because with you by my side, I know whatever comes our way, we'll face it together." They sat there for a moment, just holding each other's gaze, letting the quiet of the room settle around them. Emma felt lighter, as though the weight of all her worries had lifted. She didn't need to have everything figured out, and she didn't need to be perfect. She just needed to be herself, and that was more than enough for Liam. And in that moment, she realized that love didn't require perfection. It didn't require fitting into a certain world or meeting certain expectations. All it required was two people willing to be real with each other, to love each other without conditions. And that was exactly what she had found with Liam. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. Weeks passed, and Emma and Liam's relationship continued to deepen in ways she never imagined. Their connection was stronger than ever, built on trust, honesty, and a mutual respect that made everything feel natural. Emma no longer felt like an outsider in Liam's world. She had stopped worrying about fitting in and had started embracing the life they were building together. The insecurities she had once carried with her began to fade as she realized that her worth wasn't determined by the things she didn't have but by the love and happiness she shared with him. One evening, as they walked hand in hand through the park near their apartment, Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come. The doubts, the fears, the uncertainty, everything seemed so distant now. She had found someone who loved her for who she was, not for what she could offer. And for the first time in her life, she felt like she had found a place where she truly belonged. Liam stopped walking and turned to face her, his expression filled with warmth. "Emma," he said softly, "I've been thinking about us a lot lately. About everything we've been through together." He paused, taking a deep breath, and Emma's heart skipped a beat. "There's something I need to ask you." His eyes softened as he looked into hers. Emma felt a wave of emotion rush over her. She knew what was coming. The moment she had been dreaming about. She had never felt more certain of anything in her life. "What is it?" she asked, her voice steady, though her heart was racing. Liam smiled, his gaze never leaving hers. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. I want to build a future together, not just as a couple, but as partners in everything. I love you, Emma. And I want to make it official." He dropped to one knee, reaching into his pocket to pull out a small, velvet box. Inside was a ring, a simple yet elegant diamond that caught the light as he held it up to her. Emma gasped, her hands trembling as she looked at the ring, then back at Liam. This moment felt like a dream, one she hadn't dared to believe could be real. "Liam, are you sure?" she asked, her voice filled with emotion. "Are you really sure about this? About me?" Liam's smile grew wider, his voice full of certainty. "I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You are everything to me, Emma. You're not just a dream. You're my reality. And I want to make this last forever. So, will you marry me?" Emma stood there, staring at him, her heart bursting with love and joy. She had never imagined she could feel so whole, so loved. The man in front of her, this CEO, this powerful, successful man, was offering her a life she never thought she could have. A life full of love, honesty, and a future they would build together. She took a deep breath, her eyes brimming with tears. "Yes," she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. "Yes, I will marry you." She threw her arms around him, pulling him into a tight embrace. The world around them seemed to disappear in that moment, leaving only the two of them standing there, lost in the joy of their shared promise. Liam kissed her gently, the kiss full of all the love they had shared, and all the love they had yet to experience together. They stood in the park, surrounded by the night air, the sound of the city humming in the background, but all they could hear was the beating of their hearts. As they walked home that night, hand in hand, Emma couldn't help but smile. She had found her place, her home, in a man who loved her for exactly who she was. And together, they would build a future full of everything they had dreamed of. No more doubts. No more fears. Just love. And as they reached their apartment, Liam pulled her close once more, whispering softly, "This is just the beginning, Emma. Our journey is only just starting." She smiled, her heart full, knowing that with him by her side, she could face whatever came next. Stay tuned for the next part of the story.